Okay, we're going to start off building this thing, and we're going to need the LEDs. We got the LEDs down here, and the main board itself. So let's flip this over, and all the LEDs are going to drop in to the little holes down here. And see if we can get that maybe a close-up view there, one of the slots. So first thing, you want to get your LEDs out of here, maybe line them up and get them all in the right orientation. So fumble around here a little bit and get these started. So usually just kind of dump all these out. Maybe a pair of scissors is better, but peel the plastic back. There we go. And let's get these guys going. That didn't work very well. Try again. Alright, so we got all the LEDs kind of plopped down here a pile. Should be 30 LEDs in the kit. There's a few extras just in case. We can talk about why later on. What I would suggest is, let me get maybe a close-up camera in here and see if this will help a bit. What I want to do is just get all these lined up and get the orientation for them the same so that when we drop them into the board, they're all going to be the right way and we don't have to worry about it too much. Each of these LEDs has a notched corner. Let's see if I can find a better way to show this. Let's see, if we go up here somewhere, don't know. Nope. Let's just say, of the 4 tabs on the LED, there's one that's got a little notch in it. That's the ground. And what I like to do is just get them all lined up with that ground pin in the top right corner. And that could be just like a little row of these or just a little group of them. And just to the point to where they're all the same direction. This is the same way they're going to go into the board. Where that ground is in the top right. Let's see if we can get a better angle on these guys from up there. Okay. I mean, you can kind of do them one at a time and position them as you go, but this, I think, helps just to be able to get them all plugged in and in the right way right off the bat. And you don't have to like redo anything later. Same sort of thing with diodes where you gotta like get them in the right direction. So it helps to kind of line them up and then solder them in. Very exciting stuff for orienting all the parts. But I think it's important. All right, maybe hard to tell, but I think I've got all those oriented the right way. I think so. All right, so we're going down to the board now, and we're just going to drop these all into the holes in the PCB. So again, we've got kind of a hole here, 4 tabs. That's where we're going to solder these together. So just want to kind of set them in place. We're going to maybe nudge them around as necessary as we go. There's a marking on the PCB for this for the ground corner. There's a little triangle in the corner there that corresponds to that notch. So you want to line those up. there's another way to look at this on the other side, but we'll do that after we've soldered these in place. Well, we're going to tack a corner in and then double check everything before we sort of do the final commitment to solder them all in place. So seeing as you got these all oriented, it's just a matter of sort of grabbing them and placing them in the slots, in the holes. And we'll double check it with some magnification here or something before we get soldering. Don't need these pointy tweezers, but sometimes they're helpful to grab these little guys and nudge them around. You can use big tweezers as well. Got some of these. They're just like a little tougher maybe to drop in. Yeah, maybe not. Again, we've got 27 keys and 27 LEDs, and you've probably got either 29 or 30 LEDs in the kit package, and that's partly because it's easier to count 30 in putting these things out, but it's also just in case you end up with a bad LED. So we've got a few left up there, and we're just going to kind of set those aside. If we need them later, cool. If not, throw them in a bag, and you've got replacements, or you could use them for another project or something. Okay, so let's see if the wide-angle camera will show any of this very well. So we've got them all kind of in place there. It's a little too shiny, isn't it? But let's kind of go down here. I would suggest get in close on these and make sure that, and find a good angle to look at it and make sure that the notched corner is in the top right. Hang on, let's get in the middle here. So top right corner of the LED is the notch, and if you do what I did just then, you'd whack the PCB with your finger, and then all the LEDs jumped out. So got to kind of start over a little bit. Just because of contrast here, I want to make sure. Let's get the tweezers again, those guys. This is the fun part. You get it all set, and then you're like, bang it, and you got to start over. Fun, right? Quote, unquote, fun. So, but that'll inevitably happen anytime while you're working on this. You just knock something, you're going to knock them free. So I want to reorient. Make sure this is the right way. Oh, there it is. Just wonder where that one went. Silk screen looks cool, but man, it makes it hard to see stuff sometimes. Alright, I have misplaced an LED somewhere. And another one. This is just going to be a video of placing and replacing all the LEDs. Alright, we can double check those in a minute. Where did my other LED go? There's another one hiding here somewhere. Oh, it's over there. It fell through. Alright, let's get back up here. So now, my suggestion here is don't try to solder. I would usually solder that top corner just for whatever reason. I start at the top corner for some things. In this case, don't do that because it's ground, and that's probably the hardest one to solder. So what I suggest is solder the bottom right corner first, and we just want to like put a little blob of solder on there just to hold it in place. So we're just sort of tacking it down, and then we're going to double check everything. So we're not too worried about this being good soldering yet, and we just want to get it sort of held in place, and then we can sort of adjust and make little tweaks or adjustments if we need to move things around. So we're not even really worried about the orientation being just right here. Start let's see, I'm going to start way in the top right here and just give that just like a quick little nudge. A little bit of solder. It's probably helpful to also have your tweezers handy. If they jump out of place, you can kind of hold it and tack it at the same time. If you do a really light touch here, just, you know, give it a little blob of solder just for 2 seconds, just to hold it in place. And that's all you need to do. Maybe we'll fast forward through this part. Goes by pretty quick, but again, I'm not really worried about this being a good solder joint just yet. I just want to hold the part in place, and we're going to redo this. And realistically, I'm not even holding this for like 2 seconds, just like a tiny little bit. Then it'll flip out, and you got to reposition it. You got to make sure you got the notch in the right corner, and keep rolling here. Got lost. The other perhaps approach would be to put a little blob of solder on a corner and then drop the part on, heat up the solder, and kind of position it. But with these LEDs, since they've got the little slot they hold into, it's kind of easy to set them first and then go do an adjustment pass sort of afterwards. Let's see, just make sure I've got all of them tacked in place. Do a little tap there, see if anything jumps out of place. All right, they're in there, which is cool. Now, if we flip the board over ever so lightly, don't try to whack any of these too much, and see if we can see this in that camera. So there's a notch in the corner of each LED up here. It's probably hard to see in the video. I've got pictures on GitHub that show this, but there's a white little line in the corner right here, and that's ground, and there's a angled notch in the LED up there as well, and that's ground. So you want to look at these and make sure they're right. Easiest way to do it is say there's this little black square, part of the diode there, and that's going to be to your left side looking at the top of the board. So you can scan across all of these and just sort of look at them and go, oh yeah, they're all facing the right direction, they're all the same, that's good. So that's kind of your key thing, just to make sure they're oriented the right direction. So let's give it a little check again, and things are looking good right there. So you flip it back over, and I'm going to do a little pass and just adjust position of these things so they're square-ish in the hole. Like this one, that first one there is a little bit wonky, and if I'm being extra careful, I just want to get it kind of nice and positioned there. So heat up the pad with the soldering iron, just kind of maybe nudge it a little bit, use the tweezers to just hold it in place. And sometimes you got to do that a couple of times. And we're just going to kind of go and do all of them real quick like this. Sometimes you can just kind of nudge the other side of the LED or the body of it like that. Might even grab the sides and twist it if you need to, but sometimes that makes it not so good. I like pressing down in the middle of that hole in the center and see if it looks nice and square. I suppose you could get that wide-angle camera to be more like a close-up camera, but Oh, exposure's gone to hell there. Do over. Back to auto. Alright, cool. How are we doing over this? This camera's all wiggly. I have to edit this part out. Hey, now we're doing a little better. Let's maybe get this up here. Do-do-do-do. Let's see if this will work. Let's go to the close-up camera. Alright, so how's that working? That works. Maybe go this way. Alright, so we've got LED there. You can see the notch in the top right corner, and we've got all sort of tacked in place, but I'm going to rotate that around, or just kind of nudge it a little bit so it's a little more square, and then sort of retack it in place. So let's go back to up here, or maybe even just the overhead. Make some adjustments. All right. Let's see here. Get it back to tacking this in place. Where were we? Some of these already look okay, so you don't really need to move them too much. We're going to adjust the solder, or give it a little more solder on that pin when we do the other ones. And you don't want to hold the iron down here very long, just a second or two, enough to get the little blob of solder to heat up and melt. And you'll see it liquefy, and the part will kind of free itself a little bit. And don't really press down or anything either. You just want to barely touch it. And ideally, you want to touch the pad and then the leg of the LED. And you can kind of even move the LED just by moving your soldering iron a little bit back and forth, just by catching that edge. Yeah, that's going to jump out and get caught. What are we doing here? This last one. Give them a quick little inspect and see. They look nice and straight. Looks pretty good to me. Looks square enough. You just don't want them in there a little angularly and then the light bleeds a little bit funny or anything like that. All right, one more quick look from the top. Make sure they're all good. Cool. So now we want to hit the opposite corner to solder the other bits down first. So we want to flip the board over, and then we're going to do that bottom right again. And this time we're going to be a little bit more worried about soldering. Don't really need the tweezers here. You're just going to hit each pad and give it just a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and pull the solder away. Bump my visor into the camera. So we're going to kind of hold it against it for a sec, give it 1, 2, 3. I like to touch the pad and then press against the leg, so you're heating up both parts. That's kind of the trick to this. You want to heat up both parts of the connection, get the solder to melt around, to flow. Give it like a 2, 3 count. So 1, 2, 3. Again, don't press down or like drag across the board. You just want to like kind of barely touch things. Not enough there, so maybe another little hit of solder. We'll go over these one more time. You get a little too much solder built up on your iron, just give it a quick hit with the steel wool. Out of frame there, but just that. Some of those. Good to have. And you may like retin the tip there every once in a while. So don't just like put the iron down and then think about something else for a few seconds. Like be just paying attention to what you're doing there. Sometimes it's like, oh, I got to grab a thing. Don't leave the iron kind of sitting there. And again, I'm just doing the same pin all the way around, and then we're going to come back and do the other ones. Yeah, we already got that one. All right, so those are good. Let's go around and do the other one. This one flipped over. This is the voltage. So this is getting 5 volts. And I'll drop down here. And the way I'm doing this, I hit the other pad that I already soldered. Don't worry about it. Just, try not to do that too much, but if you do, you just have to make adjustments. Now, realizing with the jacks underneath there, this isn't the flattest thing ever. So you could grab your little teensy jig stuff and prop it up that way, with the little plastics. Keep it from bouncing around. Or if you got like helping hands or something, some people like those to keep their board stable. And maybe get excited and just touch up the other pin while I'm there, but we're going to touch these all one more time before we're done. Slide this over. Top row, which is the bottom row, upside down. And I'm going quick enough on these, you can almost like hit the solder on your way to the pad. I don't know if I suggest that for everybody, but it works for me sometimes. You just kind of get them all in there at the same time. And you just got to make sure you don't like blob crazy amounts of solder on there. You just need enough to sort of get the job done. All right, since we're already here on this side, I'm just going to touch these and make sure. Looks like we got a good connection. The solder's kind of flowing. That's that. And then we'll go back and do the other side. All right, those are looking pretty good. We'll get a little closer on those in a second. So flip back over the other direction. We're going to do that last pin all the way around. And this is our ground pin. And this might take a little extra heat because that pin's connected to the ground plane and it might be a little harder to heat up. So you might need to give it like another second, like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 seconds tops. 1, 2, now let's call it 3 seconds. So just 1, 2, 3. Sometimes kind of like just wiggle the iron back and forth, make sure it's got it, that solder sort of distributed. Since we're here, let's do this up here. So it's probably some fast forward material here. Just keep that back there. Make sure you don't miss any. Skip over one, jumping around. Just be methodical so you don't forget any. Luckily, the LEDs are easy and exposed, so you can make adjustments later if you need to. Kind of off-camera frame there. Alright, let's do a quick hit. You can even hit them both at the same time if you're feeling that way, but it's good to hit each one individually. A little bit of solder in your iron. So I guess I'm giving them like a 1 count here, just kind of like 1 second, 1 second. And if you think that bottom pin, the first one we did, needs a little extra solder, you can just kind of give it a quick touch. All right, let's get the close-up camera here again. Oops. Hey, how you doing? This one. All right, so let's get close here again. Take a look at the finished soldering here. Where is it? There it is. Close-up camera is kind of hard to get there, isn't it? All right, so let's get back to our overhead camera. That's all the LEDs. You can double check again if they're the right direction, but that is the first step. Next up, we'll do the teensy.